Glory be to God, Mighty God Ministries, episode 28, Health and Wellness. And today we're going to do black beans. And these are good. You can do black beans or red beans. It doesn't really matter. It's whatever you prefer. And I get whatever brands at the store. At Walmart, they have that Goya brand. I think the last time I was at Aldi's, they have this Pueblo Lindo brand. I never tried these, but they're all pretty similar. The one thing about black beans is they're a good snack to add on to meals. Obviously, it's like anything else. You want to be careful on how much you eat, because obviously if you eat too much of them, it's gonna affect you in a negative way. But essentially, once the beans are done, the serving size, where's my cup? Let's see, hold on 1 second. 1/4. All right, so this is a 1/4 cup right here, essentially. So this is a small amount of beans. If you look, this is actually the serving size. It's very small, so it's not very much that you need. And if we look at the ingredients here, there's really nothing bad in them because they're just plain beans. Again, it's just beans. The calorie content is 120. You have 8 grams of protein, 22 carbs, and you have 0 fat, 0 cholesterol, and 0 sodium. Now, what you can do is, in a pinch, what you can do is you can take the store-bought beans, and store-bought beans are good, but one of the problems with the store-bought beans that I've found out is that I try to stay away from those unless I don't have the time to make them. Then I'll do it. And there's a bunch of different brands out there, whether it's Walmart has the Goya beans, Target has a bean brand called 3 Bean Blend, and it's pretty good. But you always want to look for the low sodium, because the problem is if we cook these up, we're going to have 0 sodium in them, right? But when you buy the cans, they have outrageous amounts of sodium in them. Like it's you might as well just dump a container of salt in them. Because that's how much sodium they have, which again, sodium's not bad for you like anything else. It's, salt obviously, but in moderation. So we have to keep in mind that. So we're going to go ahead and cook these up. These do take a long time. So keep in mind that, this is probably going to be anywhere from 1.5 hours to 2 hours cooking time. Once you do have them cooked though, you can take them and put them in a container and you can freeze them and keep them for a while. Or what I would do is I would put them in a big container. Like essentially I would take a container like this, for instance. I would take one of these big containers like this. I'd put the beans in here and I'd scoop out literally 1/4 cup. Or if I'm going, if I want to eat more and I have the calorie content, I might do 2 cups of beans that night. The other thing you want to keep in mind is with beans is they obviously, if you're not used to eating fiber content, stuff that's high in fiber, which is really good for you. But if you're not used to it, what can happen is you can have some stomach problems initially. So when you're first getting used to it, I would say if you don't eat beans at all, I would say start out with a small amount, maybe not a 1/4 cup, maybe a tablespoon, and just let your body adjust to them. Again, they're good for you, but let your body adjust to them, And then the other thing you want to do, which I have not found this to be the case, but you do want to go through them and make sure, and it tells you on the package, make sure there's nothing else in them, and make sure they're just beans, because obviously, when these are packaged, they could have other things in them, like dirt or this little thing. So I don't get too crazy about this. I just go through, basically just do an eye check, and I look, and I'll be honest, I don't see anything in here that is looks bad to me. I don't see any debris or anything, so I think we're good to go. Obviously, you'll have some little chips like this, but that's just the beans flaking off. So we're good to go on that. And then the next thing we're gonna do, this is very basic. So this is super basic. You're gonna need a big pot, because right now, I wanna cook all these beans in one roll. If I were to do it smaller and I wanna cook them quicker, I might only do half the beans. So I would cut half the beans. I would take the other ones, put them in like a Ziploc bag or something, airtight container, and put them in there. But I want to do the whole thing. So right now, I'm just going to take all these beans, which this is a lot. This is 2 pounds, and I'm going to throw them in this bowl. And again, this, I really didn't get too much on this bowl, so we're just gonna give it a throw back in there. And then now we have our beans in our pot, pretty easy, 2 pounds. And then basically it's gonna be, per pound, you need anywhere from 6 to 8 cups of water. So get a measuring spoon. And what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna sit here and I'm just gonna water these up. And I'm gonna do hot water to make it easier. So I'm just gonna do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. And I know that's not exact because I'm letting the water fill up, but again, it's a timing thing, so I don't want to take a lot of time to sit here and do it each time. Obviously, you could get other things like these measuring cups if you want to go a little bit quicker, the bigger ones, but right now we're just going to do that. And essentially, we are ready to go. Now, what you could do on these is you could throw in all types of other types of things in there. So you could throw in like garlic if you want. You could throw onions, tomatoes, different things. Some of the stuff you want to throw in toward the end and let the beans cook first. But some of it I've seen people, they throw it in right now. So I like to just have them plain to start out with. So, and I just want the beans plain. So right now I'm just going to go ahead and just turn this bad boy on power boil. We're going to light it up. And I'm going to put this on high. And I'm just going to let these go. And essentially the only thing I need to do is occasionally stir them. And then also when it starts getting to a boil, what I will do is I will pop a lid on these. But again, these do take a long time because of the fact that you have to cook them up. And beans have a thing called lectin in them, which is not great for you, but it breaks down when you cook them. So in your stomach, your gut lining can digest it. But so the thing that you want to keep in mind is also beans are really good for you. But if you start eating beans, you've never had them before, don't get nervous if you get like gas and you get stomach, cramping a little bit, or stomach, your stomach feels a little bit different than normal. That's normal if you're not eating fiber. So if you're not eating fiber, which fiber comes from what? A lot of different plants have fiber, vegetable, there's fiber in all different types of things. But if you don't eat that at all, and you just, you eat a piece of lettuce occasionally every once in a while, and you start just eating beans, it is possible that you can have some stomach issues. But just like I said, do it in a small amount and then build yourself up. Because once you do it, they're actually really good for you. They're a great snack. Like I said, 1/4 cup isn't a lot, but they're a great snack. I would add them to a meal every week. So same thing, if I cook these beans, what I would do is I would start eating, that 1/4 cup. Glory be to God, Mighty God Ministries, episode 28, Health and Wellness. We're doing beans. The last recording I did, I'm gonna have to cut these and merge them together because I forgot that I've been doing a lot of recordings and photos and videos on my phone, and my storage filled up. So actually my last video cut out saying the storage was filled because this app I use to record only gets so much. But essentially it's been about an hour or so on the beans, and they are essentially close to being done. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to bring you over. Obviously, we'll set you up here so you can see. Let's get you that view right there. And you can see right now, these are close to being done. So essentially right now, they've been on for probably about an hour or so. So again, I boiled them. And then essentially after boiling them, I went ahead and set them on a simmer. So essentially, let me see if I can lock you in right there to give you a little view. Yeah, so I basically set them on a simmer right now, and you can see right now, I would consider these done, to be honest, but I like my beans actually, I don't know, everyone's different. I like my beans actually like a mushy. I like them a little bit mushy, and everyone's different. So what I'm gonna do now is these are essentially, I can pull these off right now and say they're done. But what I'm gonna do is I'm going to add a couple different things to them. And this is not anything crazy. This is just basic stuff that I'm gonna add. You don't have to do this. It's whatever you prefer. Okay, so I'm gonna add a couple things, and I'm just gonna let them cook for another half an hour, but this is all preference. So it's whatever you like, you know, whatever you like. Some people, there's times where I don't do anything. I'll literally just let these cook up and I'll just have plain beans and that's it. And I don't put anything on them. But I'm gonna put a little bit of just some seasoning. I'll put some oregano, basil, a little bit of parsley, just to throw a little bit of extra flavor in there. Again, you don't need to do this. You can, it's whatever you prefer. I'm gonna throw a little bit of pepper and just a tiny bit of salt. Because again, I don't want to kill it with sodium and then there's no point. And then I'm gonna add a little bit of paprika. Just a tiny bit. I also thought about putting some peppers in here because my brother gave me some peppers. They're hot peppers. But I might put them on top of it when I'm done. And the other thing I'm gonna do is, again, this is a preference, but I like garlic on everything. So I'm gonna add a little garlic to these beans, even though I know this is probably not what most people do. I like garlic on everything, so I'm gonna add a little bit of garlic. And I only added like not even less than like, maybe not even half of a teaspoon. So since it's a half a teaspoon, it's not gonna really affect it that much. It's just gonna add a little bit extra in there. And then right now, I'm gonna go ahead and mix this up, but essentially, again, I could let these go for maybe another half an hour to an hour tops. It's probably overkill, but I might let them go another half an hour to an hour just on super low heat because I'm back home now. I took off for a little bit. I let them go for about an hour. And I could pull them off right now and say they're done, but I'm gonna keep going with them. And then the only other thing I'm gonna add, just because I have it and it's gonna go bad, is I'm gonna also add a tomato and an onion. And the tomato I'm gonna add because essentially, one, the tomato is getting older and it's gonna go bad. Since the beans are already cooked, it should be fine. It should be fine to throw the tomato in here now. But essentially, let me wash it real quick. Essentially, I'm gonna do a tomato real quick because it's, like I said, it's going bad. I don't wanna waste this. So I might as well just cook it up, throw it in there. And then the last thing I'm gonna add is I'm gonna add an onion because I also have another onion, a whole onion. And onions are always good, you know. And then this will add, again, this is gonna add a little bit of calorie content, but because I'm only doing like a lot of times when I do beans, I'm only doing 1/4 cup. So I'm not doing like a huge amount. I'm doing 1/4 cup. Maybe two servings of them. I don't do I normally don't. I'm not saying that if I go somewhere to eat beans and they cook it, obviously they're gonna give you a massive portion of it. You know, that's okay. But again, you have to keep in mind, you gotta count your calories, right? So if you do a massive portion of beans, if we know 1/4 cup is 120 calories, then we know if we do that big, if they give you that container, that plastic container filled with beans, you know that's gonna be about, probably 400 to 500 calories in beans. And that's okay because you're getting a lot of protein in that. You just got to count that into your daily intake, what that's going to be, if you're looking to lose weight or depending on what you're trying to do. Or, again, like I said, some days you want to splurge. You can't always eat healthy, some days you got to splurge. So maybe, take that day where you're splurging, you're eating extra, you have extra calories. Take that day and then essentially on that day, you're going to do that. Go ahead and, eat the whole thing of them, if you want. And that's okay. As long as you don't do it all the time, that's fine to do. And again, I have this onion. I normally don't do this, but I have this onion. I can already tell it's starting to get a little bit older because I bought the bag a long time ago. I could see it's getting that way because it's got that the when you peel off the peels, it's got a certain texture to it. So again, I don't normally do this, but onions are always good with anything. If you like onions, I like onions, so they're good with anything. So I'm gonna cut this up. I'm gonna throw this in the beans, and then I'm gonna let that cook for another hour, half an hour to an hour on low. If I wanted to pull them right now, like I said, if I was time consumed right now, today I'm not time consumed, but if I was time consumed, I would just go ahead and pull them right now and call it a day and be done with it. But since I have plenty of time, because it's only, 2:21, and I got some stuff I gotta do later, but there's nothing pressing right now. It's a relaxing day today. So what I'm going to do is I got the time to do this. So I'm going to let it go for another hour. And then essentially, and it depends how you like your onions. You might like chunks of onions. You might like little pieces. You know, it all depends. But like I said, this onion, if I don't use this pretty soon, it's going to go bad. So I don't really want to waste this, you know. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this up. And I'm going to do big chunks, which obviously in beans, I would recommend you do smaller pieces of onion. But who cares for what I'm doing? Like I said, I just eat it plain as like a side to my meal. So whatever I'm having for that day. And I don't think I've ever shown me eating beans before, but I do eat them. I enjoy them. And I didn't always used to eat beans. I started that in the last year or so, because they're a good thing to keep on hand, because one, they stay good forever, right? Like you could buy a bag, and as long as you keep it sealed, they're good for a long time. And they're quick and easy, because once you have them cooked up, if you put these in the fridge, they'll last for probably about a week. You know, if you freeze them, they'll last for longer. But if you just put them in the fridge, they'll last for about a week. So they're another thing that you could add. And again, whether it's a calorie filler or you need some extra protein, again, that gives you 8 grams of protein, 120 calories, you know, and they're good for you. Beans are really good for you, you know, but keep in mind, like I said, if you're not used to eating beans and you just start eating like a lot of beans, you're going to get gas. You're going to get gas, and your stomach might have some issues with it. So keep that in mind. But if you're okay with or just start out small. Start out small, you know, don't do huge amounts, and then work your way up. It's like anything else, you know. You don't want to just go and say, I'm going to start eating, you know, a pound of meat if you're not used to it, you know. But basically, I'm going to go ahead and stir this up. And this is, actually, it's interesting because this is looking good now, because now we got some flavor in here. And you can see, I'm going to bring you over again real quick just to show you. Nothing crazy here. You can see it's looking good, you know. And that's going to all mix up and cook in. And again, I'm just adding a little bit of flavor. You could just do it plain. But I'm going to add this in here just to get a little flavor. And I could pull these right now. These are done, in my opinion. I'm not a bean expert. Obviously, there's people that would they definitely been doing this their whole lives, and they know a lot better than me. But I would say those are done if I wanted to be done right now. But essentially, I'm going to let them go for another hour and just let them sit. Just let them sit on low. And then I'll take them off and then call it a day. But again, this channel is to glorify God. This is another great thing that you can make. Like I said, if you don't have the time, you can get the cans of beans. Just look at the sodium. Try to get low sodium, because that sodium can be really bad for you if you have too much of it. Because what ends up happening is, if you take in too much sodium, it brings water in. You retain water, and it's okay to retain water, but you don't want to have too much water in you, as far as like, you know, retaining it, the extra water in it. Sodium is not great for you. Obviously, moderation, like everything else, it's okay. But if you eat like, you know, 1 can of those beans, which is calorie wise, it's nothing. You eat a can of beans, it's very minimal calorie wise. Like I said, it's 120 for 1/4 cup. So even if you did a couple servings, it might be 300-400 calories, and it's going to fill you up. It's definitely going to fill you up, but you got to watch out for the sodium. So if you can, look for low sodium products when you're going for beans and that. And again, this channel is to glorify God. Make sure you're praying, because if you want to lose weight and get healthy, prayer works. I don't care what any of these people tell you about apple cider vinegar and all these magical fixes, and it's a bunch of lies. It's a bunch of lies by the devil. And, you know, it's lies. I'm just going to leave it at that. It is lies from the devil. There is no magical thing you can take, no special mixture of secret ingredients that you can lose weight with. There's no pill or shot you can take. You know, they're all workarounds. And you know what workarounds do? Let me tell you what workarounds do. They are a short method, and they crumble and crack. Why? Because it's just like the Bible says. You got to build your foundation on what? On a solid rock, which is Jesus Christ. You can't build your foundation on, I'm going to take, you know, apple cider and mix it with this, and, you know, I'm going to lose weight, or I'm going to take these shots and I'm going to lose weight. Yeah, you'll lose it. You'll lose it for a little bit, and then what's going to happen? You'll be right back where you started. Why? Because you built your foundation on sand, and it will crumble and crack. That's what will happen. But if you build your foundation on Jesus Christ, I promise you, and I bet you there's no one on YouTube telling you this, because, you know, the devil, what's he do? That's the way of the world. It's lies. Pray. I promise you, you start praying and you start putting in the work, God will change you. It is going to take some time. Look, like me, it took me a couple years, but I've kept the weight off because I stay in prayer. I pray and I build a foundation, and God's shown me different things. And he can do the same for you. I am a walking testimony that he can do it. But you got to go into prayer. Prayer and petition. You cannot do it on your own. We want to think we can by doing a shot or running a gazillion miles. No, it doesn't work like that. You need God. He's the only way you can get to your goals. And if you get to the goals without him, like I said, a lot of times it'll crack and crumble. You think you got there, but you didn't. You didn't get there because you need him. I promise you, it's the best thing you've ever done. If you're not saved, click the more link, read that salvation prayer. That'll start your journey with God, and he will change you. He will change you. If you ask him for prayer, and he stands by his word. Unlike anybody else in the world and all these other secret tips and these hacks and these fly-by-night, scams essentially is what they are. They can't stand on their word. But you know who can stand on his word? God, Jesus Christ. That's who stands on his words, and it's written. He will not go away from his word. It might take time. It might not happen when you want it to happen, but he is the true king. And if he says something, he stands by his word. He makes the impossible possible. That's what God does. Remember that. He makes the impossible possible. So if you think it's impossible, it is by yourself. But with God, it's possible because he makes the impossible possible. God bless you. We'll see you in the next one.